comic books that need to be disputed. My fee is free. And welcome once again to Comic Books Cultural Impact. And I am your host, Danny Tennial. Man, I am the ultimate nerd myself, so you gotta understand, in nerd culture, we always do these versus battles. And I start thinking, what would I want to present to the nerd community? And I always grew up loving I grew up in the 60s now when it was Adam West Batman. It was Adam West Batman. And what a lot of people don't know is that, did you know that Batman was selling comic books so badly in the 60s that DC Comics was thinking about discontinuing printing Batman comics? But you didn't know that. Guess what saved Batman comic books? Adam West TV Batman, pow, bang, kazam, holy Batman! That TV show created such a sensation for Batman that the Batman comic book started selling from that point on to where right now I would say, comic book wise, Batman outsells Superman. Now let that sink in. This past May would have been, I think Batman would have turned somewhere, let's see, he was created in 1939 by Bill Finger, who never got the credit for it, and Bob Haney, if I pronounce his name right. But you all know who I'm speaking about. May 1939. Let's see, 49, 59, 69, 79, 89, 99. I want to say, 09, 19. That's what I thought. About 82 years old. About 82 years old. Okay? Let's see. Now, in the 80-something years Batman has existed, I can say again that comic book wise, he outsells every DC superhero character. And let me say this, in all seriousness, Batman is looking at shows like Batman and the old black and white Superman that were played by George Reeves, really gave me the idea of heroism in my little enormous Brainiac-sized brain. If you don't know who Brainiac is, you better learn your comic books here. Anyway, I thought, what if Batman was real? What if, according to DC Comics, or at least what I look, Batman was 6'2", weighed anywhere between 210 and 220, bench press 500 pounds, a Olympic class athlete in gymnastics, long distance running, karate in various styles, MMA, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and Batman is the ultimate fighter. He's a genius, and he has, let's put it this way, he's a world-class fighter, but he's also a genius, supposedly know every form of martial arts known to man. That's pretty heavy. If Batman was real, how would he fare against the likes of Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson, Michael J. White, and Bruce Lee? Not all at one time. We're not going to make it that fantastical. First up, let's go with the iconic and late great Muhammad Ali. According to the stats that I read or Google, Muhammad Ali was 6'3", but I met Ali personally, and I know he had to be taller than 6'3". I'm 6'2". I came right here to Ali. So I'm pretty sure he was closer to 6'4", at least in my mind. His fighting weight, I do remember because I'm from the time when, he was really coming back after in the 70s. Of course, he was fighting in the 60s. Ali fighting weight usually, if I remember correctly, was around 219. So Ali versus Batman, I'm going to restrict it to a boxing match. Batman has to box Ali on the rules of heavyweight boxing because Batman is 6'2", my height, at 210, according to the latest DC comics, 6'2", 210, fighting Muhammad Ali, okay, 6'3", at his fighting weight, 220. How do I think Batman would fare? First of all, when fighters fight, they learn the fighting strategy of whom they would fight. Batman would have something that would put Ali at a disadvantage. Everyone knows Batman is a tactical genius, and he always prepared. He would have knowledge of Ali's boxing powers, his skills, and his speed. We'll take Ali at his best. When he was in the 60s, he was, in his early 20s, in his prime 20s, when he was fast on his feet, when he could measure, the distance of when someone's trying to strike him. He has terrific head movement and footwork. Batman is going to get tagged by Ali. There's absolutely no doubt. If it's a strict boxing match, overall boxing skill may tilt, even though Batman is in a Olympic level boxer. Ali is and here's what I'm thinking, Ali may have the edge on overall boxing skill. But here's the thing, Batman is also, if he was real, would be a real world fighter. I mean, Batman does this for life and death, how Ali does it more or less for a point system, but I would have never fought Ali. I wouldn't, but Batman would know Ali's strategy because he was studied and he was always an excellent guy. We call it his prep power, but it's really his attention to detail. Batman is going to see, he's going to see where Ali failed against the likes of Smoking Joe Frazier, and he's going to see where Ali came short against power hitters like Big George Foreman. Batman is pumping like a power lifter. He's going to tag Ali. I love Ali, like all of you, but Ali is losing this boxing match. Batman against Iron Mike Tyson. Iron Mike Tyson is 5'10", at his best 220. I think he probably fought around about 210 at his best weight. I'm talking about Mike Tyson before the Buster Douglas, because after Buster Douglas, Mike kind of seen him lost his way in boxing. So at his best, how would Mike Tyson do against Batman? Again, the only Batman advantages is his height and his arm reach, which Batman would know. I'm restricting Batman strictly as a boxer. Batman would know that Mike Tyson wants to get inside, because that is where Mike Tyson pick-a-boot style. Mike Tyson is going to tag Batman. I'll tell you what Mike Tyson is not going to do. He's not going to knock out Batman. He's basically against a competent boxer, at least as well as Holyfield, and a power lifter and skillful boxer like Batman. Mike Tyson is going to, even at his best, have to go the distance. And that's where it falls into Batman's territory. As Mike Tyson has to go that distance because he's not knocking out Batman. Forget that. If it comes down to a point system, Mike Tyson's, I'm sorry, again, one of my favorites, he's just going to lose. All right. Batman. So far, Batman's 2-2. Batman against Michael J. White. Michael J. White has very much 9 black belts, and Michael J. White has a lot of the skill sets that would give Batman pause. Here's the problem that Michael J. White would have with Batman. If he is I'm taking it, all these guys is just as well known in this world where Batman really exists as they are now. Again, Batman would have studied Michael J. White's skill set. And while impressive, Michael J. White would have this disadvantage. Again, Batman not only trained to fight at that level, and I'll tell you, Michael J. White has a very impressive skill set. And yet Batman's skill set is a life and death skill set situation. Michael J. White's skill set is more or less showmanship. Would I want to mess with Michael J. White? No, I would find a reason to talk my way out of it. I don't know about you, but that's what I'll do. But against Batman at the level of skills and powers that Batman has, Michael J. White is outmatched. Batman 3 for 3 in my book. All right. Against martial arts legend Bruce Lee. Oh my goodness. This is what you've been waiting for. According to some people, Bruce Lee is absolutely the greatest martial artist that has ever lived. But Bruce Lee is up against a man who has weight advantage of like 60 pounds, who also has height advantage, who also has reach advantage, who also has as well or greater knowledge of all martial art styles that Bruce Lee has not yet mastered, but Batman has mastered. I'm sorry, Bruce. It's just not going to happen for you. Batman is just going to beat Bruce Lee. And let the haters come in. I love Bruce Lee too. Enter the Dragon will always be my favorite Bruce Lee movie. Yet, against the greatest fighter of the DC universe, even the likes of Muhammad Ali, Bruce Lee, Michael J. White, and Mike Tyson in their best genres would not be able to overcome a real life Cape Crusader like the Batman. Just not happening. So what say you? We're just having fun. Don't lose your sleep and your brains over this. We're just having fun. It's make believe. All right? All right. Superheroes on planet Earth, step forward. For those of you that have any comic books that need to be disputed, my fee is free. Hi, I'm Danny Tennial. I am your host and producer of this show, Comic Books Cultural Impact. I grew up loving the greatest superheroes that were ever created: Superman, Spider-Man, Batman, the Fantastic Four, the Incredible Hulk, and the X-Men. I was an avid comic book collector as a young boy. One thing that I decided to do as I semi-retired from the ministry in Memphis to get back into something that I love to do. That's comic books, comic strips, performing. And that show is a bit of what you're seeing here. And I also, along with my partner Ryan Smith, is doing a t-shirt business and as well as printing business and comic books, calendars, t-shirts. Just check us out again at Ryan Smith Iconic Images on Facebook, or give us a call, 901-584-2585. And welcome back. Also on this segment, I want to talk about something in comic books a couple of years ago, at least 2 to 3 years ago, when the Black Panther movie came out from Marvel Comics, the biggest comic book company in all the world. The Black Panther was created by two white Jewish males who are iconic in the comic book world and worldwide. Stan Lee, Jack King Kirby, undisputed king of comic books. They created the Black Panther character in 1966. Okay? At the same time, the actual political Black Panther Party came into existence by Huey Newton. Okay? Now, flash forward, what was it, 2018, 2019? Marvel Comics rules the comic book film genre. They did a story of the Black Panther and the Wakanda with the iconic, now deceased actor Chadwick Boseman. And here were, it's going to sound away, but I don't mean, there were a certain number of people in the media actually with no knowledge thinking that Black Panther was a superhero of the actual political group, the Black Panthers. You can't make this up, in the words of Kevin Samuels, you know. What's the French toast? So, I'm like, here you got a guy like Ben Shapiro, who they swear is a genius. On what planet, but that's another story. He's Jewish himself, so he say. He said he's a comic book fan, and he doesn't know that two white Jews created the Black Panther character. He's on Fox. Oh, God. I want to gag just saying that name, but he wants to say that, well, you got these people that thinking that the Black Panther was created politically to appease black people. No, the Black Panther was created about, at that time, 50 years ago. And it had nothing to do with the Black Panther organization. So in this segment, I'm going to talk about comics and race. Let me say this about comics and comic book people. When we talk about comic books, cultural impact, this is exactly what we're talking about. The world of comics, in spite of how it's viewed here in the West as some infantile, juvenile, nerd nonsense, in some ways it is. Comics have also dealt with the very subject of race in and of itself. Let me say this. Jack Kirby created Captain America in the 1940s, around 1944, 1945. This scene here, the very first thing, Jack Kirby is Jewish now. What does he have Captain America doing? Punching racist, fascist Adolf Hitler. Okay? Social justice warrior, he will be called now. If you can get this, but you have a problem with Black Lives Matter, the Falcon and Winter Soldier, which is being aired or streamed on television in 2021, something is wrong with your thinking. Marvel, in the 90s, rewrote. Something happened before white Steve Rogers became Captain America. They tested with a black guy named Isaiah Bradley. He was actually the first Captain America before Steve Rogers. Marvel rewrote that. Of course, Jack Kirby is dead. Jack Kirby died in the early 90s, around 92, 93, if not 94. Marvel rewrote based on the historical Tuskegee experiment. Marvel rewrote that the super soldier serum would, if it was real, have been first practiced on black people. Don't say Danny is being a black radical and he's bringing politics into my comic books. No, that's Marvel Comics. Marvel Comics said that before before they operated on a white guy becoming Captain America, they would do it on a black man first, knowing the history of America. Another story. Also in the early 1970s, there was a comic book, Superman comic book, where Lois Lane asked Superman to use his Kryptonian technology to turn her, a white woman, into a black woman. Actual DC Comics, what DC is dealing with the subject of race, where Lois Lane goes undercover as a black woman for a day. Let me say this. There was an actual white man in the 60s who wrote a book, how he was at the time the term was Negro, how he was a Negro for a day. And the book, you can look it up, the book was published, and this white man told about how his experiences was as an African American in the 1960s or what have you growing up. DC turned that story obviously to a comic book where Lois Lane is a reporter that goes undercover and she goes from a white woman to a black woman. Not only did Lois Lane do that, but she challenged Superman that were she a black woman, would he, Superman, still be in love with her? Superman tried to sidestep that question, but Lois wasn't letting him off the hook. Now, it's been a minute since I, read the story, but of course, Superman is a good guy. So, of course, with him, her racial color would not matter because in essence, he loved what Lois Lane is from inside out. But these were signs that comic books have dealt with the subject of race. Now, maybe their dealing with the subject of race is not the way that black man like myself, Danny Tennial, would deal with it, but race has come up in comics, guys. All you guys that are he and hawing about if you go woke, you go broke in comics, you need to really upgrade your knowledge about comic book history. Just recently in the bookstore, I saw it. They had a book called Superman versus the KKK. DC Comics published an actual book of Superman fighting the Ku Klux Klan. Of course, we all know that would be one of the most one-sided battles, this side of me fighting Mike Tyson. Okay, during the late 80s, early 90s, 1989, DC Comics, Detective Comics showed Batman, the Cape Crusader, fighting a KKK type organization. So comics have dealt in their own way with the subject of race, of superheroes in the real world in race. And why does all this matter? This is leading to a couple of, let me say, dissertations or monologues I got coming up in the next show. The representation of the superhero idea in America, primarily, let's be honest, has been white males. Superheroes at their core are power images, you understand, or empowerment images. The late, great Isaac Hayes, and I had the opportunity to work with Isaac Hayes a couple of times professionally during the early 2000s. Now, Isaac Hayes has passed, of course, but he told me in 2000 when he was promoting his book in Memphis, his cookbook, those of you that can remember that, early 2000, he said, Danny, he said, now, I don't want you to put this in the paper. And I didn't. I kept my word. It's 20-some years later. He said, but when I did the new Shaft for 2000 with John Singleton, and I could not, or they did not want to show Shaft in a powerful black light to attract the attention of the white women because of his masculine prowess and all that. His, that masculinity attracts femininity. That's a fact. Now, what I'm saying that is to say this is that he said Danny was very racist. This Isaac Hayes, 2000. He said, but I could not pull out of the film because I was offended by the racism that John Singleton and I faced. He said, I couldn't pull out because I'd already signed the contract in agreement for $1 million. So I'm committed to see the project through. In other words, Isaac Hayes was layman, and we all know the original Richard Roundtree shaft from 1970, 71. It's a black empowerment image. Anything that upsets in America the psyche of some white guy's psyche, it is just repulsive. So they don't have a problem seeing Captain America punch Adolf Hitler. Some of them probably do. But they sure got a problem of a Captain America, which Marvel Comics did publish, that supported Black Lives Matter. So they don't have a problem that Superman fights the Klan. Was DC being woke and broke? Was DC in 1989 being woke and broke when Batman fight the Klan or the KKK? So that comics in their own way, this is just scratching the surface of the comic book medium. It stretches further than bang, boom, bam, than what a lot of people realize. Around the world, particularly in China, what they call manga, and in some cases Britain, the comic book ideal is not as juvenile as it has been in these United States of America. I am glad that, for what it's worth, that the majors would scratch the surface that the superhero Jonah could be broader and representative of all races, class of people. It's just a matter of human growth, okay? And I can't give this the justice it deserves because I'm on a time constraint. But like we say, as a former teacher, do your own research and understand that the cultural impact of comics reach every aspect of human life and experience. Until next time.